Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu pakhair agale ni hao chunushumme washmale. Ohio gozaimasu. Guten Morgen. Hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Halashama chatore. Ahlan wa sahlan marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, swabia, bhalli karaya, hosh gal din nayo sayo, huya mora chi vato chi hal yud kalimera. And once again, a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajrasatti. I happen to be shahzadkhan, and ladies and gentlemen, after a scrumptious Eid, I think after a very barbecuous Eid, we are back on track, we're back on work, and it feels wonderful, alhamdulillah. And I was actually excited, Hajra, to be very honest, that that I'm going back to work, because having so much ample time to yourself is not even a great idea. And I was just looking forward. I was like, okay, when am I going to go back to work? When I'll be in front of my audiences? So ladies and gentlemen, here we are kicking off our week, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is feeling the same. Well, I think that's certainly going to be a question whether I was feeling the same when I woke up early in the morning or not. But first things first, hello Hajra, how are you feeling today?
Assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for introducing me. So certainly we had the day off for our Eid, and obviously we had spent our Eid at PTV with our family. We were doing the shows here, but also at the same time we were going with our families, going out, distributing meat and whatnot. And I think this Eid is a lot more hectic for the men, because they have to do all that distribution of the meat, and then with that kasai, and then I'm distributing again that meat again. But Shahzad, certainly I feel that someone has enjoyed a lot of barbecue, because I was watching someone's story here, and there was a lot of barbecue here. So how was the barbecue? Because our experiment really went bad, and entire barbecue was burnt, so we couldn't eat it. I really wanted to taste it, because I think the burnt barbecue is also very delicious. But
I think we had the best time doing the barbecue, and there was a reason to it. Number one, so obviously we certainly, because are so busy with the work, probably because one, we do a morning show, one, I do that sports show, which is at night. So it's rare that I get time to spend, with my friends. A lot of my friends were here from Germany, UK and whatnot. So this time around, what we did was that we actually called a professional to do the barbecue for us. And rather we'll sit and enjoy. Yes, like a chef. And, it was good. It was good. It was fantastic. And, that real essence of mutton was there. That real essence of dumba was there. So, everybody loved it as well. Not just that, I think that the other day, so they, my other friends, who were from Mandi Bahawaldeen or from Lahore, they came over. So I had to do another barbecue. And that day, then I refrained from eating a lot of meat and protein, because I was like, it's going to have an impact on my body and my liver too as well. So everybody, I think that, that you must have enjoyed. And I thought that, it was a great time to kind of sit down with friends. And, when you see them after such a long time, your family members after such a long time, you're like, okay, yaar, thankfully, alhamdulillah, that I was able to spend time with them. So having said so, I was excited today when I woke up. Well, not really, so I thought, okay, why don't I just give them a call that I don't, I don't feel well and whatnot. So I usually do not lie, so either I'm going to kind of convey it to Hajra, or Hajra is going to convey it to me if one of us is not going to make it to work. But then all of a sudden what happened was, because my mother called me at like 7:30. Then I was like, Ma, please can you call me at 8, and then I'll wake up and whatever. And then all of a sudden I was like, my conscience kind of knocked from inside and was like, Allah has given you this opportunity. Dress up, show up, and go ahead, seize the day.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think as a professional, we're always juggling between the urge to having to go to work, because we are so, acclimatized to having a routine, waking up early in the morning, then going to the office. And at the same time, when there's, I think, a break of the holidays, or there's some sort of, break from that routine. So we are always trying to juggle between that break and then and having a routine with the work. Because I do remember I was having this conversation with one of my friend, a childhood friend, and she was saying, yeah, when we were students, when we were kids, so we were very excited because there were summer vacations of, I think, 2-3 months or something like that, right? And we planned a lot of things, and we said that we would wake up late and we would play, and then we would again play, right? But then you go into a professional routine, then you become a professional, you're working, you don't get that sort of summer vacation.
Luxury.
A huge retreat, right? A huge vacation, because obviously you're working in the, unless you are in the teaching profession in the first place, right? And then she was like, yeah, I can't sit idle for such a long hours at my home, because I'm so acclimatized to my routine, where you have to wake up early in the morning, then you have to routine, you have to dress up, you have to go at the work, and then come back, and your entire day is hinged around that, right? As compared to the holidays, where we're just sleeping, and it's so hot and humid outside. And nowadays,
even inside.
Yes. that we really don't want to go outside, right? Even if we want to go and hang out with the friends, the humidity really prevents us because it is so hot outside, right? The heat is preventing us.
And inside.
Inside too, yes, because certainly the weather is also reflecting in our environment.
Yes, and I hope that my producer is actually kind of listening to what we're trying to convey
cues,
over here.
Yes.
But very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on towards the top stories as we come back on track. After the Eid vacations, let's see what's happening inside the country and outside the world as well, outside the country as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, first up, obviously. And I think that this is a great news for all those Pakistanis who are out there because Gilgit-Baltistan attracted a great number of tourists, especially international tourists in recent years. This valley has now become a cradle of peace and order owing to the special attention and effective projects of the Pakistan Army. Not only domestic, but also foreign tourists are among the tourists. A large number of tourists visited Gilgit-Baltistan throughout the year and especially on the occasion of Eid. The tourists who celebrated Eid in Baltistan appreciated the development projects through the Pakistan Army and expressed their determination to come in the future as country is safe. A big round of applause obviously to Pakistan Army and Pakistan Armed Forces for maintaining peace within the country, and this is something which we really need to kind of appreciate, give credit where it's due.
Yes.
Number two, I think I would want to give credit to all of those governments who've contributed to this infrastructure.
Yes.
I think this infrastructure actually enables people. Because I spent Eid in Murray and it was fantastic, to travel from motorway B over there, all the roads were fixed, there was no rush, and people were having a great time. It is, this tourism is actually going to exist if we are going to have great infrastructure in the near future as well. Keep on building up, make sure that there's more awareness amongst people and the governments and the local governments to kind of invest where they know that tourists will come.
Yes, and Shahzad, do you remember a few days back we were talking about how within the local community in Hunza and Gilgit-Baltistan, they have the habit of naming the glaciers, naming the rivers, after the very feminine and the masculine traits, and also then they had these marriages of the river and they wanted to give birth to a glacier out there. So that's very nice because obviously the community, they had their local customs there, and also very welcoming. The people of Hunza Valley especially, they're very loving, they're very educated in the first place, and also they have very tourist friendly sort of traits and characteristics within them.
Imagine when I was there, so imagine that one of my daughter was very young, so she was in our lap. So when we were supposed to have food, this lady came out, held her, as far as or as long as we were having that food, and then, she gave us our baby back and we were very thankful. I was like, okay, wow, yeah, I think everybody needs to learn this. But moving on.
Right. And obviously we want to reflect a little bit over the culture of the Gilgit-Baltistan, especially the mountains, since you had the opportunity to go there and also you have the international exposure.
Baltic Fort, Altit Fort.
Yeah, I mean, you've been to Switzerland and you might have seen the Alps there.
Yes.
I don't think so. The mountains there, especially in what do you call that place? In Austria, the Salzburg, they can't match the magnanimity of the mountains here in Pakistan. They're so huge, right? And there's so many adventurous sports which are coming up, especially in the Naltar Valley. So in the winters, there's entire winter sports coming up with
this. And from 7th onwards, Shandur Polo Festival is going to be on as well. So if anybody is planning to do so, please make sure that you guys book yourself a hotel in the first place, and then if you want to travel with friends, make sure that you book a high roof as well. I think it's going to be a great journey for everybody out there. But moving on, where today, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be the 43rd death anniversary of the legendary Sufi and folk singer Alam Lohar, and it is being observed today. Alam Lohar is famous for his rendition of Waris Shah's Heer, which he has memorized in 36 styles and forms. And obviously, till today, Mr. Arif Lohar actually wants to kind of live that legacy of his father, which is why he's very popularly known with folk music and the way he kind of reminds us all about his father, ladies and gentlemen. So, Inna Lillahi wa Inna Ilaihi Raji'un. May his soul rest in peace. And Lohar Sahab, you're still in our prayers, you're still in our hearts, and you're always going to be there. And even today, in our PTV's gallery, we do have his picture, and it's always fantastic to come across that picture and see how the culture was back in the day.
Yes, and that too, and he has introduced a very specific kind of the folklore music, a very specific kind of a traditional music, which became the brand or the face of the Pakistan internationally, right? And this is the soft power that we often keep talking about, how you can project the soft power of Pakistan, which is through a folklore, which is through a tradition, which is through a dance. Earlier on, Shahzad was alluding to the polo, Shandur Polo. And it is sad about it that polo or the sports is held on the roof of the earth, because it is held in such
Highest
a
polo
height.
ground in the world.
Yes, highest polo ground on the earth, right? And this is something very unique to Pakistan. It is the face of the Pakistan, and especially during the colonial times when the Britishers came here, they were so fascinated by this sports, because I think England has a very sort of cold weather, and so does Pakistan, right? And they were fascinated with these highest, what do you call, the roof of the sports, which is played on the roof of the world.
And it was the Britishers who actually kind of figured out that, where all of these beautiful places were, to be very honest. You go to Abbottabad.
I mean, they developed the infrastructure there, but obviously,
so imagine that, why do you think Abbottabad is called Abbottabad? It was because
Major
of
Abbott, James Abbott,
So exactly, so that's how it was, and it's wonderful to kind of go and experience all of those places. So if you still have time, because nobody's going to get any vacations, but kids are on summer vacation, and now right after Eid, ladies and gentlemen, just last night my daughter came to me and she was like, Dad, I think I'm bored. And I was like, why are you bored? We did so much, we went to Murray, we came back, we had the goats and whatnot. She's like, but what to do next? And then I was like, okay, I think I think that this is a question which only kids can answer. So we're very lucky that post-Eid, what the kids are actually looking forward to. So ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by two amazing, wonderful little angels over here in the studios, and then we're going to question them about, what are their plans after Eid. Obviously, we're going to talk about Eid, but what are their plans after Eid? So we are very lucky that we've actually been joined by the angel number one, who happens to be Miss Aleena Imran. Hello, Aleena. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. I'm feeling good.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. You look really pretty.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right. So we have also Anaya Imran. Assalamu alaikum, Anaya. How are you doing?
Walaikum assalam. I'm fine.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's good news when somebody tells me that they're feeling fine. So how was your Eid, Anaya? I think let's get the conversation started from here. So Anaya, how was your Eid?
My Eid was fine because I got $1 from my granny and I got like 10,000.
$1 from your granny and 10,000 from who?
From everyone.
From your entire family. So I think you're one of those lucky child who actually gets Eid on Bakra Eid, because on Bakra Eid there's no tradition of Eid in my family, so you're a lucky one, okay, number one. What are you going to do with that $1 and 10,000 rupees?
I put it in my bank account.
You put it in your bank account, you already have a bank account. Wow, that's very sensible of your parents. And then when you need the money, what will you do?
I'll take it out from the bank.
You'll take it out from the bank. Wow, that's wonderful. That's financial literacy. Every parent needs to work on this. All right, moving on to you, Aleena. How was your Eid, first of all?
It was good.
It was good. Right. Do you look forward to Bakra Eid more, or do you look forward to Choti Eid more?
Both.
Both?
Why so?
Because you get Eid on both the Eids, right?
Yes, and you also cut a goat.
You cut a goat? Have you named your goat something?
No.
No? Did you spend the time with the goat?
Yeah.
Yes?
Really?
Did you love it or no?
But were you scared of the goat? Because my daughters, they weren't really going closer to the goats. I had to pick them up to take them closer to the goats.
Long as it doesn't hit me.
As long as it doesn't hit you.
It doesn't hit you, does it? No?
It feels like, you do get scared at times,
yeah,
you
but
do
they are in a very playful mood, but then you interpret it as they are attacking you and then you get scared a lot, right? So what about the homework? Are you doing the homework, summer vacation homework, or no, you don't want to do it?
I have to do it.
You have to do it?
It has my marks are going to be in it in my first term.
Really?
And how
Which school do you go to now? Which school?
Guardian's house.
Guardian's house, because these days the schools are really magnificent. So imagine that there are some schools where they complete the year before summer vacation and there's no homework for kids. So and I believe that that it's
really?
Yeah.
Is it a system from March to March, something like that?
I mean, it totally depends on the school, and see, even our producer is happy about it. But so obviously Eid was good, the entire family came up, your friends were there. But what are you planning to do now? Because now Eid is gone, you still have 2 months of summer vacations left to yourself. What do you plan to do now?
I have to complete my whole homework that is still left.
So you have not done anything? Wow, you're just like me, as smart as me. Wow, that's wonderful.
I was playing and sleeping only.
Right?
All right.
And no watching mobiles, no watching games.
I did use that a little.
Did you? What did you watch?
I was watching YouTube only.
Really?
And what do you watch on YouTube?
Drawing videos. And I like to watch also, sometimes I play little games.
Okay. Which ones?
I like to play Angela.
Okay.
And I also play, I don't play that many games though.
Oh really? And what about you?
I just make bracelets.
You make bracelets? Oh wow!
And you know, I can see you wearing some pretty bangles and rings and whatnot. So do you love getting dressed up every single day? And how is it? You know, so what is the color you like the most? You know, is it red color which you're wearing as of now, or are there other colors? You know, because a lot of kids your age, they love unicorns and rainbows and whatnot. So what do you love the most? You know, in colors and clothes, and how do you want your day to be? Do you want to be dressed up as a princess every single day?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this reminds us, Shahzad, so when we were kids, when we were growing up, so obviously we didn't have the luxury of mobile phones or tablets or iPads or whatnot, right? So we were more into having the sports which were outdoor, right? So how do you spend your childhood, especially in the summer vacations? Did you used to go to your grandparents' place or somewhere else? And especially if you are at your grandparents' place, so it's a huge treat for you because they look after you so much, they spoil you so much. With your parents, you have a very strict routine, right? You have to go to your school, then come back, do your homework, or maybe, depends upon routine.
So that's how it is. You know, so when you with your parents and when you're growing up, it's just like as if you are an ordinary citizen, all right? You know, and with grandparents, you know, it's like as if you are an adult, you know, and you are an elderly person, you're being looked after every single time. So I would always love to spend most of my time at my grandparents' place, you know, because my dadabu, you know, he would spoil me. I was the first boy of the family. Not spoil me, but he would give me like 10 rupees, 20 rupees to do whatever I want to do.
The grandfatherly love,
and then obviously because all my chachas used to live with my dadabu, so, you know, once I'm going to get 10 rupees from my dadabu, I'll go to my other chachu's room. And I'll be like, look, Dadabu gave me 10 rupees, you have to give me 20. So he's going to double it. Go to the one who actually lives upstairs, you know, so he'll double it. Then go to the third floor, you know, to the next chacha. And I'll like, Chachu, come on.
And if you have 100 rupees in your hand, you would feel like, you know, Bill Gates or
my
something
God, we were,
like that.
And you know, so there was this, there was this Chaudhary ki bakery, you know, at that point of time where me and my cousin used to go, and, you know, we used to split the bill with, and most of the time
what would you buy there?
Obviously, you know, soft drinks.
I think cream roll a lot.
We love soft drinks most of the time. And then, you know, so do you remember that there was this Churan, Buddha Baba and Jawan Baba type of a Churan which used to come out there? I think that was that. And then there was cotton candies, and then there was ice golas. So all of that. And, you know, we weren't allowed. So me and my cousin had to sneak outside our house. And there was once time that, you know, so what we did was that our younger brothers, I think my cousin who was younger than me was 4 years younger than me, and then my younger brother, my own younger brother, was 3 years younger than me. And so we told them that, okay, when we are going to come back, we're going to throw rocks at your window, and then please come downstairs and open.
Operation,
and open the door. So my grandfather's room was right next to the main gate as well. So imagine that we were throwing the stones. And my brother, he came down to my grandfather and he said that, you know, that Bhai and Asad Bhai were outside. So imagine the next time we came in front of the gate, it was my grandfather opened the gate, and, you know, we were slapped right in front of the entire mahalla. And then we never, you know, kind of thought about stepping outside as well.
Oh, really? Because that sort of deterrence would work for 2 to 3 days, mostly with the kids. And then I think on the 4th or 5th day, they were again back to their own routine.
We tried, but it couldn't happen now because, you know, he would always be watching us that, okay, you know, they're going outside or not.
You take a very strict bias,
So let me ask you, do you go to your grandparents' place?
Yes.
Do they love you the most, or do you think that your parents love you the most?
Both.
I think kids are politically correct too these days as well, so it's wonderful. So when you go to your grandparents' place, what do you guys do? Do you guys play with other cousins who are there? Is it more like a family reunion sort of a thing? And then what do you guys play, you know, with cousins?
We play hide and seek mostly.
Hide and seek most of the time, and who wins?
Everyone knows.
And what sort of a kid is Anaya? I mean, is she a good kid? Is she a good student? Or she's more of a ladaki bachchi?
She's fine.
She's fine?
She's fine?
Just fine.
What do you mean
by
she's
good?
Fine?
She's
and
good.
What do you have to say about Api? You know, so let's talk about that as well. So Api is most of the time, is she controlling you? Is she guiding you? Don't do this, don't do that. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Does that happen a lot? And then what do you say to Api? Huh? You don't say anything?
And is there someone in the family who complains a lot about you people to your parents, you know, shikaite lagana? Does anyone do that?
My big sister. No, you don't.
Aleena does that?
No, she does this.
She does that?
No.
Okay, I think
no, I don't think that, you know, both of you do that, but it's just that you feel as if, you know, she might have told the mother or the father as well. But when it comes to...
So what was the last complaint did she...
I didn't do a complaint.
No? No? Shikayat nahi lagai kabhi bhi?
Never?
How is that possible?
Sometimes, you know, probably.
Let's ask
Mama
Anaya.
Anaya ne kya kiya, Anaya ne kiya, maine ne kiya. You know, if you guys broke something, you know, obviously people do blame it onto other siblings. We have done that, you know, when we were growing up.
Or do you guys cover each other up mistakes so that mama doesn't get to know about it, right?
Mostly.
Mostly,
Mostly, really?
That's a wonderful quality.
What was the last thing that you covered up for each other?
We were awake in the night.
What?
Huh?
We were awake in the
middle
night.
of
You
the
were
night.
awake in the middle of the night, but now, you know, you not only that your mother knows it, the entire world knows it now. So you're not covering it up. But it was wonderful to have you kids over here. You know, it's a blessing to have you over here to talk to such little angels.
Yes.
So very quickly, you know, once before we actually say goodbye to you and we bid farewell to you, what do you want to be in life? How do you want to bring about
I
that
want to be a
change?
doctor.
You want to be a doctor?
And what about you?
She wants
I
to
want
be
to be a
famous.
model and I want to be famous.
Yeah, you want to be a model, you want to be you want to be famous. You're already famous. You're on our show now. You know, so as soon as you're going to step outside, people will be ready to take selfies with you.
And autographs.
And what are you going to write on your autograph now? Have you thought about it? What?
I write my signature.
You write my signature? Okay, that's it.
Wonderful,
You know, the ones you do on your checkbook? Really? Please don't do that because then people, if God forbid, they're going to get your checkbook, you know, they can get your
No, but
money
they
out.
don't
10,000
have the
rupees and $1, right?
But they don't have the checkbook.
No?
What if they get it, yaar? So you have to be safe. Okay? And please make sure that you do not have this habit of, you know, signing the same sign because imagine what people can take out your money. So 10,000 rupees and $1.
I think
that's a
Shahzad
lot
is
of money.
speaking from a lot of experience, right?
You know, you never know because eventually what happens is that, you know, whenever somebody's out there to get an autograph, then, you know, the signature which comes out is the same signature which you do on your checkbook. I think because you're so habitual of it. But thank you so much,
Thank you so much,
babies, for
kids.
being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with you. And if there's any message you want to share with people and audiences, look into the camera, talk to them. Do you want to say something to all those Pakistanis
thank
who are out
you.
there? Nothing at all? Do you want to tell
And
them
how,
that,
how
you know,
do you
keep your
want the
country
kids
clean
to
or
spend?
something?
How do you want the kids to spend their summer vacation? Do you want them to work, do their homeworks?
No, it's
or
very
do they
hot.
want them to watch the YouTube all the time and then
No,
play,
it's
play, and
too
play?
hot to go outside and play.
Oh, it's too hot.
So just
but you
stay
can play
inside.
inside, right? No,
No,
You have lot of
you'll
indoor games.
break something.
you break something, but you can have some board games like Ludo and
Yes.
Ono and I don't know,
Cards.
Monopoly and
Yeah, cards.
Yeah, cards.
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
So do you guys play chess as well?
No, I know how to play Ludo, cards, and Ono.
Oh,
Ludo,
really?
cards and Uno, yeah.
And who wins?
Me and Anaya mostly.
So no Monopoly?
We played Monopoly, but now we don't play.
What about Scrabble?
No, we,
No.
All right, no?
Yeah, young kids, yeah.
And no physical games like, you know, Pakran Pakrai, Kho
Yes,
Kho.
we do.
Do you guys do that?
And
That too
kids.
we
indoors?
play hide and seek.
Hide and seek. So, okay, for example, very quickly, you know, before we wrap it up, you know, for example, if there are other babies outside watching you and they want to plan their day on a summer vacation, how do you want them to plan their day?
At
You
what
know,
time
so
they
what
should
do they
wake
do in
up,
the
yeah.
morning? What do they do in the afternoon
It
and the
depends
evening?
on the weather.
Depends on the weather. Okay, so if it's hot, then
Stay inside.
stay inside, do what?
Don't do your homework.
Don't do your homework. I think that was the best one, you know. So if it's hot
Yes.
and if you're inside, don't do your
Yes,
homework.
yes.
Okay,
You
then
can go to
next.
sleep.
Okay, go to
instead of doing
sleep.
your homework.
Eat what? Eat healthy?
Eat ice
or eat
cream?
fast food?
Eat both.
Eat both. Okay. Eat junk as well in between?
It matters if you can get it.
Okay, it matters. It depends obviously if you
Party.
can get it because parents these days are very controlling. They're like, okay, since you've had a packet of chips and a soft drink, you know, you cannot eat any further. You know, that's what it is. Okay, so now if it's cold weather or if it's slightly raining
yes,
outside,
yes.
how do you kids to spend their day?
If I'm allowed to play in the rain, then I'll go and play in the rain.
Okay, and then what will you play in the rain?
I'll just jump.
Puddle
in.
jump. Okay, that's wonderful. What about you?
I'll take up my pigeons from the cave and make them
You
fly.
have pigeons as well?
Yes.
How many
Lovely.
pigeons do you have?
We had 40, but most of them died.
40? That's quite a lot. Did you build them a bigger cage? You know,
Yeah.
because 40 obviously is growing and then they're multiplying and they're baby pigeons as well. So have you named your pigeons?
No.
No.
There's so
So do
many,
you have
yeah.
any other pets at home?
Yes, a dog.
A dog as well? What's your dog's name?
Tommy.
Tommy.
Tommy. What does Tommy do?
He plays around, but he also gets yelled sometimes.
Really? Why? What does Tommy do that you have to yell on Tommy?
Once I
He-
took him in a walk and then he was scaring the kids.
He was
was
scaring the
scaring the
kids,
kids.
but you weren't scared of it because obviously it was your dog, right? But you know, for somebody, you know, dogs can really be scary.
Yes, yes.
People have phobia of dogs, so please make sure whenever you're taking your dog out for a walk, put it on leash so that the
We
dog
do
does
put
not
in
really,
no leash. We
really.
do.
But the dogs can really be, you know, strong and pull the babies as well. So, what size is your Tommy? Is it a bigger Tommy or a
A
smaller Tommy?
bigger one because he's German Shepherd, but he's 7 months.
He's 7 months old, that's it? And you guys are friends with him? Who feeds Tommy?
Both of us.
Both of you? And who feeds the pigeons?
Both of me.
Mostly we do.
No, I think it's Anaya, right? No? Anaya, most of the time? And then do you guys like take responsibility? Okay, today I'm going to do it, tomorrow you can do it?
Mostly only.
Oh, wonderful.
Sometimes.
So very quickly, one last question. Do you guys help your mother with house chores most of the time?
Yes.
Kinda.
And do you think every kid should do that while you're at home and enjoying summer vacations?
Maybe.
Maybe. Or do you think that your mother's already sleeping too much because it's summer vacations, nobody has to go to school?
Yes.
They're confused.
I think I've made their father's life very easier for them as well. But thank you so much, babies, for
Thank
being
you
with
so
us.
much.
Little angels, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with such amazing, vibrant children early in the morning. Thank you so much. And you're already famous. Once you're going to step outside, people will be asking for your selfie. So remember what you're going to write on your autograph, and people are going to ask for it. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, this is the beauty of life. And we certainly want everybody to kind of have or encompass your life around such beautiful people and kids, and give your time, so that that whatever life you have to yourself, you cherish it every single day, that the blessing Allah Mia has bestowed upon you. Please make sure that you're thankful to it and enjoy the most of your kids while they are at home. Please make sure that you do not look for summer schools and whatnot just to get rid of them, that they have so much energy and we certainly cannot look after them. Please make sure that you look after them in the best of their ways. We're heading out towards a short break. Once you guys will come back, there's a good news which we actually want to share with all of you, and they've been operational since 2018. It's 2023. What have they done so far, and why do you think it was necessary to constitute such a fund? I'm going to give a little bit away, and so after a break, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be in conversation with them. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.
Welcome back, and before going on to the break, Shahzad alluded to the fact that we have established a very wonderful institution. And Shahzad, last year Pakistan had very terrible and horrible floods, and there was a lot of discourse around the climate change and how we need to be more proactive in tackling
Resilient.
that. Yes, in tackling that approach, and Pakistani state, I think, very successfully also campaigned for a concept called loss and damage funds, which were hinged around the concept that the third world countries like Pakistan, who are minimal contributor, and their contribution constitute amounts to nothing towards this entire climate change and global gas emissions, are being held responsible in terms of having a very abnormal weather patterns and all of these weathers and whatnot, right? So, and because of that, and especially in the Sharm el-Sheikh COP27 conference, loss and damage fund was established, and it was hinged around the project-based funding to tackle the climate change, right? And how is that manifestation being held in Pakistan? In Pakistan, we also had established the National Disaster Risk Management Fund in 2018. This is a body which is supposed to be more proactive in its approach. But what are the broader contours of this body, and how does it tackle the disasters and the risks which are associated with that? And frankly speaking, Pakistan had a 30 or 40 billion dollars of the climate losses in the first phase, right? So we are very glad that we have been joined by Deputy General Manager of the National Disaster Risk Management Fund, who happens to be Muhammad Fawad. Hayat, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you for having me here.
Guzashta Eid Mubarak, and it's wonderful to actually see such a vibrant, young, amazing gentleman sitting over here speaking about Pakistan's proactive approach, and that, God forbid, any sort of disaster. So we certainly are very well aware of the role of NDMA and PDMAs as well. But let's talk about this, recently, I would rather term it recently, and it's because of the fact that, so nobody actually knew about it. So even when we got to know about it and when we sat down to research about it, got to know that, yeah, this is something which actually came into being in 2018 and it's contributed quite a lot. So I have a complete chart over here, I've done my homework, so we'll come down to, what projects have been undertaken by the NDRMF as well. But first of all, for all our viewers out there, because we got in 46 different countries, what does the National Disaster Management Risk Fund do for people over here in Pakistan?
Thank you so much. In a nutshell, in a single line, our tagline is also making Pakistan resilient.
Okay.
So the entire focus or the primary reason for us being there or our existence is making the country resilient towards natural and climatic disasters and hazards actually. So the journey starts unfortunately with the 205 earthquakes and then later actually the 2010 floods, which later continued in 11, 12, 14 and all that stuff. And the estimated losses for just 2010 floods was a little over $10 billion US. At that time, the government started discussions with the development community, with the donors, that we should be having a body where we would ring fence the money specifically for making the country resilient, for preparing itself towards resilience building, towards disaster risk reduction. And not just that, when we started, it had two different components. During the brainstorming and the thought process.
Yes.
One was the disaster risk reduction itself, that how much can we reduce, but no matter whatever you do, even if you have unlimited resources, you will still have to bear some level of exposure beyond what you've already done as disaster risk reduction. And to cater to that particular segment, we have the disaster risk financing. So that was the concept behind NDRMF.
And I always thought that, that it only happens to me, that, whatever resources I have and whatever I wanted to get from myself, I couldn't fulfill that. But now I know that, that on a larger scale, everybody kind of come across that. So obviously, from 2018, it must have been really challenging because we certainly did have the infrastructure where, God forbid, the disaster happened and then NDMA was operational or PDMAs would have been operational. But imagine that your, I think, core value lies in probably making sure that, God forbid, first of all, anticipating, then foreseeing that, unfortunately, that this might happen within the country, so you have to prepare. Now, when we talk about in terms of preparation, in which certain areas within less than 5 years, how do you think you've contributed, this fund has contributed, and when we speak about the volume of the fund, how does it look like? Is it like millions of dollars? How does it work?
All right, so up till now, the balance sheet has been about $420 million US for that matter. The major contributions, there have been more than a dozen thematic areas where we've contributed.
For example?
So we've done COVID. So we brought in $50 million COVID response, including the procurement and all that stuff. We've done that. On a single contribution, we've given $150 million US, that's about 36 billion. After 2022 floods, which is called the mother of all floods. Earlier, we thought 2010 were the floods. We've done flood protection works. We do retrofitting of buildings. We've done about 50 buildings in seismic zones, zone 4 included, making them safe, more resilient towards disasters for children. We've done hospitals. We do the community-based disaster risk management. We do forestry. We've done on the coastline. We've done mangroves. We go ahead and work with NIH on the health. We have strengthened the 1122 for GB and KP. So the thematic areas is a long list actually.
Yeah,
so what we've been doing. And now we're coming up with the National Disaster Risk Management Financing Strategy. We're going to be bringing in pilot projects where we will be piloting 1 or 2 projects because the country needs to have a disaster risk financing strategy. Because as I mentioned earlier, there will be certain level of exposure beyond the risk reduction what you've already done. So no matter whatever you do, how much prepared you are, there will be disasters.
That's true.
And then the return period even of floods has gone from return period of 20 years to 1 in 100 years, and now increasing that to maybe 200 or 300 years.
Exactly. And for that, there were early, I think, systems which were put in place as well, and that was put in place by the NDRMF as well, right?
So we've done that, and not just that, we're working on a natural catastrophe model on 4 different hazards, so that for futures to come, for times to come, the country can actually make disaster resilient, sustainable development.
Wow.
So you would actually know that, okay, whatever you want to develop, how safe or how much disasters can it have?
Right.
And then you can prepare yourself accordingly.
So
But-
does that explain our mindset? Very sorry, Haja, but
Right.
just one simple question. Does that explain our mindset that now we are so well aware that we know that, okay, Pakistan is vulnerable to such climate change activity,
Yes.
and that no matter what happens, unfortunately, such sad incidents might occur in days to come, and that what we need to do is that we need to be more resilient, and we need to have this proactive approach. So, okay, we're going to put these systems in place, but no, because we certainly, as of now, we cannot kind of foresee that how bigger or smaller unfortunately the disaster is going to be. So we cannot avoid that. Okay, let's be more resilient, let's build up better, and let's build back better. Is that what it is?
Yes, that is exactly what it is. We got to be more prepared. Our capacities have to be built, and then we need to put in sustainable development element actually.
Okay.
So that we just do not develop things like we've been doing in the past because of different reasons. But now at least we should know if there's a zone 4 or a zone 3, then if a building has to be structured,
Yeah.
what sort of a building should be constructed right there?
Okay.
If there's drought coming in 10 years, you got to be prepared.
True.
Because that's a slow phenomena. We don't really pay attention to that, but that's a reality. So that's coming right that way. Then we're working on the coastline. We're working on the marines. I mean, you just pick up any segment for that matter, and within the resilience building, you can actually build resilience in the economy side as well.
True.
When you start investing in products like avocados, honeybees, saffron, olives.
One avocado actually costs you 800 rupees over here in Pakistan. So imagine if you're exporting it, even outside it's expensive.
Yes.
You get an avocado toast, you're like, okay, it's the coolest thing to have right now. Post it on Instagram. But yes, I think that it's a good thought process as well. That's where, you can actually help our economy. You're helping. Wow,
Yeah,
wonderful.
and at the same time, we see there was a lot of international discourse about loss and damage fund, and I think $100 million were pledged for that, right? And then we heard another thing coming from that discourse was the project-based funding, right? And a lot of criticism was leveled that there's a lot of talk around it, right, regarding the climate change, but the actual it's not being catapulted into the action field when we talk about it. So how is the situation on the ground, and especially when you are talking about building a resilience and you are talking about sustainability element of that, has it translated back into the action?
You see, it's easier said than done.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Yes.
and then the reality remains, no matter how much we say that we are contributing minimal, but we are facing the facts. And it is us who's at the front line. I mean, being one of the top 10 countries being most affected to disasters, most vulnerable to disasters, and these are hopefully going to continue. Unfortunately, we can hope for better, but this is what the methodology says.
Yeah.
When we talk about financing, I mean, I don't think that even the international loan can be enough, even our can be enough. So you will always be scarce for resources.
That's true.
So what is important is that you actually place your resources to the best of your workings actually, so that you can get the maximum contribution out of that particular investment you've made.
And that's exactly what I wanted to ask. So imagine that, that we already know that unfortunately our resources are scarce.
True.
So what happens is that obviously, when we look at other developing nations, what they do is that, they have this research team in place who will actually kind of come and, make you more aware of, okay, sir, we might be vulnerable, but at this point of time, I think this should be our top priority. So how do you think NDRMF is actually setting their priorities in making sure that whatever funds are allocated for whatever structures to be built in place are the structures which are needed the most?
I'm glad you asked that question and happy to answer that as well. You see, I mentioned that we work in flood protection.
Yep.
So we cannot really take care of the entire country. That's beyond us. That's beyond the economy of the country as well.
Yep.
So that's where our appraisal team comes in. That's where the research of NDRMF comes in based on scientific data that, okay, if there are 100 kilometers and we can pick up only 2, for instance, let's pick up the most important 2. Let's pick up the most vulnerable 2, where we can have the best of effects and save the maximum of lives and societies and communities right there. Because when we talk about communities, when we talk about societies there are people living. It's not just the people living. It's their livelihoods attached to them, be that agriculture, be that livestock.
Yep.
Right.
So when we rescue people and we don't rescue the other 2, their earnings is gone.
Yeah.
So that's where the flood protection comes into place, that, okay, this is the backbone of actually saving the whole ecosystem.
True.
So without saving the ecosystem, you cannot do much. You cannot just pinpoint on one thing and then let the rest of the things go.
Yeah.
So that's one. When we talk about plantation, we talk about forestation.
Yes.
I mean, we go to, for instance, on the coastline, we start planting the mangroves, which brings in itself the carbon credit economic impact to the country, to the economy itself,
Right.
bringing in money, making it sustainable so that tomorrow we can invest in some place else.
How do you introduce the element of sustainability in that? So, for example, you talked a lot about mangroves plantation, right? And mangroves are very important for the local community there, farmers there, because they're also the nursery for the shrimps and all of these small, what do you call, the fishes who are, I mean, nesting in that
and
particular
a lot of fish
forest.
catch actually is lost as well because of the lack of facility.
Yes, and the local farmers there, then they took up the shrimps and then they buy it to the market, but then there's an entire corporate mafia who wants to deforest the mangrove forest, right? So how do you make sure that, you know, you make the forests which should be owned by the community in the first place, and there should be resilience, because there's a lot of capitalism involved, there's a lot of money involved in deforesting
Authority
the
and
plant.
power.
And it is famously said that deforestation is linked to the economic progress. So more you cut the trees, that means that the more your engine of the economy is growing, right? Which
And
is
in
the old
addition to that,
paradigm.
number two, so that's one. Number two is, obviously, you know, with every member provincial assembly, you know, they have a lot of people they are answerable to. So most of the time what happens is that, you know, they'll call you, okay, Fawad Sahab, you know, I think that, you know, my voters would actually require such kind of an activity from your side.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that? Because next time we have to go and, you know, ask for the vote from our vote bank.
Yes.
So with all of that pressure, how do you convince them that, okay, sir, I think that, you know, we need to protect the ecosystem rather than giving it to your voters
Or
only?
save them from the petty
Yes.
politics in the first place, yeah?
You see, the best part is that you two have answered your question yourself while giving the statement.
Yeah.
So you put in an economic cost to that particular thing. You give them a bigger thing to lose.
Okay.
So mangroves has got a big cost coming associated with it, which is called the carbon credits. And that is being traded internationally.
Yes, yes,
that brings in money with itself. Now, whoever you say will be thinking of the voters or the communities at large,
Yes.
and will have a bigger income being generated for the province and for the country, bringing in. So that is how the communities themselves start protecting that particular thing.
True.
You talked about the fish catch, the loss what we do. We don't have jetties that much. We don't have cold storages. So the NDRMF is again working on the marine, building their resilience as well.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's a project which will be coming in the next fiscal years.
But do you think it is easier explaining all of such things to people out there who want to look
have
after
the
their
helm of
constituencies in the first place, right? I mean, telling them that, you know, we have the carbon, what do you call that term? You can buy the carbon points or whatever
Yes,
that
yes.
is, right? It's
Carbon
very
points.
difficult explaining it in the first place, no?
No. The people who sit there, I mean, the top level, they are very well aware of what that is. And once you associate at cost, you give them an income figure that this is what the country can generate. They are all in for you.
Exactly.
And that's not just mangroves. You can have the same example with avocados. You can have the same example with olive, it's grafting, oil
Right.
products. You can have the same with saffron. I mean, all these things.
Right, right.
You put in a flood protection structure and you see how much can you save. You do just one retrofitting of a school building up north,
Right.
and you see how many livelihoods, how many households have you
Yes,
actually.
that's
That's
true.
again a vote count for everybody. I mean, that's how you want to see things.
And I'm glad that you've actually mentioned that, because I still remember, you know, so obviously I've learned a lot from my father, and he happened to be a bureaucrat as well. So imagine that, you know, one fair time, I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but, you know, there was this member National Assembly who actually came up to him and said that, you know, okay, we obviously need to give a lot of jobs to people. And so then my father replied that, imagine that if I'm going to overburden my institute, how do you think that I'm able to kind of produce those profits? So I think that the better example would be
Right.
to open up newer branches so that we can hire more people. So, you know, why don't you allow me to go into your halka and, you know, make newer branches? I think that's the most sustainable part of it. And with that, I think more than 4,000 people were employed in probably more than 100 branches, alhamdulillah. So that's the great idea. But now, you know, may it be education, may it be health, may it be any sector away in Pakistan, may it be development sector, all of these things are vulnerable, unfortunately, as of now, you know, so let's speak of it. And, you know, so NDRMF obviously cannot kind of fulfill each and everyone's wishes out there, and they certainly have a bigger goal to obtain and achieve. Now, when we talk about NDRMF to making sure that, you know, they're going to maintain their focus, so how do you avoid all of that pressure throughout your day that, okay, sir, मैं ये तो कर सकता हूँ, लेकिन ये मेरे बस से बाहर है.
You got to rely on scientific research actually.
Yeah.
So if you have the exact data analysis done, if you've got the scientific basis for you, if you've got the R&D working for you, then you can actually streamline and pick point projects and prioritize them.
Okay.
So you see, our task is to do the appraisal part, pick up the best of the projects.
Yep.
And as I said earlier, given the small number of resources you have, you cannot, if you have 10 projects, you can maybe finance 2.
True.
So how do you pick those 2? That's the criteria which the NDRMF brings in. That's the appraisal part where the NDRMF brings in.
Right.
And that includes everything. I mean, it includes the economic internal rate of return, it includes the number of people. It's like investing $1 and saving how many?
Right.
Yeah.
So you see all these calculations. Once you put that, leave the rest to the decision makers.
And then so is it most of the time like बाकियों का काम भी आपको करना पड़ता है? Because imagine that you know when obviously your research team is going to come in and they'll be like, sir, okay, you know, after COVID, there is an alarming situation of monkeypox. We do not have any vaccine
Yes.
available. So because you guys have brought in machines where you will make sure that that hospitals themselves are able to kind of produce vaccines as well. So imagine that you are working in every sector, and those machines, the hospitals should be responsible of buying those machines. Why do you think NDRMF has to do something with how the vaccine needs to be made? So this is something which I would want to kind of know from you. How do you draw that thin line in between their incompetency and your competency?
I wouldn't really go to that particular level where I have to draw a line between incompetency.
At least
and
I'm being honest with my job, right?
What I'll say is that as an NDRMF representative, what NDRMF and my team, what we're doing is just trying to make a difference, honestly.
Okay.
So be that COVID, be that post-flood helping BASP for that matters and spreading out money, be that any province, any thematic area, anything, or actually giving machines to NIH, working on COVID, I mean helping them go for the vaccinations in post-COVID, or 1122 or anything.
Yep.
I mean, it is not our responsibility to judge anybody's performance.
True.
That's government's role.
But do you tell them that, okay, yeah, you can do this on your own, you do not need NDRMF in it?
If we are there to help, and if we can help, and we've received a request from them, and if that's doable, we try to do that,
Okay.
rather than just blaming and waiting for another disaster to
Imagine ye aapka
come.
kaam hai.
Because if even a single life is lost tomorrow because we did not react timely,
True.
Right.
I mean, that's too much on a burden on our shoulders.
Exactly. And thank you so much for saying
you
that,
so
because
much for
that's the
saying
kind of mindset we do require, you know, from all of those people who are out there who are at the helm of affairs, that, if you can kind of contribute, if you can bring about that change, I think why not? So let's not delay. So, okay, let's talk about how did all of that $450 million came into being, who are the funding agencies, how does the fund work? Because we're only left with last 2-3 minutes.
All right. So, technically, NDRMF is obviously a government-owned company. We have our own board with secretaries on top and an independent chairman. The money is given to us by the government.
Okay.
So the government takes care of the money part, be that loan, equity, or whatever, grants or whatever. So the government gives us grants, and we got to sub-grant to the provinces, to the federal, to the partners we work with.
Okay.
So we do the granting part. So this money came to us from the government, and still the money flows from the government, because in case you're taking a loan from an MDB, it has to be on a sovereign level, so the government takes care of that. If it is a grant even, it has to be budgeted, obviously.
Right.
And has the grant increased over time, because it's been 5 years now?
Yes, the grant is increasing, and so much so that we are now going, we were already halfway there, we're getting the NDRMF accredited by the Green Climate Fund. So when we talk about the global climate finance, we are giving a gateway to the country to access a global climate finance, especially in grant and equity directly, rather than relying on local resources which are already scarce.
Wow.
So we're moving from a loan based to a partnership based, to a grant based, to an equity based system, where we can actually generate money for that matter and make not just the institution
community.
sustainable, but the investments we make as well.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you so
Mohammad
much.
Fawad Hayat Sahab, for being with us. And there's one more thing which I would want to kind of share with you. It's more of a compliment towards the end of the program, and that is that, it's very rare that you come across deputy general managers who are so well aware of what they are actually doing in their institutions as well. So it's wonderful to have such inspiring
much. Thank you.
gentlemen out there, who are working for the
I'm
betterment of
honored,
the
humbled.
country, and with
Thank
a
you.
proactive approach. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, in life, proactive approach is the approach to be kind of observed by everybody who's out there. Please make sure that you do not sit down, you do not procrastinate. Whenever you have that chance to make a change or bring about that difference, which can actually have a positive impact, please make sure that you do not
it is
stop.
the need of the hour, considering the fact that we are the most vulnerable country when it comes to the climate change discourses, and we need to do more about it instead of talking. So with that, we'll go on the, we'll close the segment, and we will say Allah Hafiz to you. So until next time.
1, 2, 3, good morning. Have a great day, everybody, and a great week ahead.